The Manhattan grand jury expected now to vote Wednesday on whether to bring charges against the former president. This is a process. This is one of numerous criminal charges, by the way, or probes that Donald Trump faces throughout the country, January 6th being one, election allegations in Georgia being another. Joining us this morning to talk more about the issue at hand at this hour, Andrew Napolitano, a former New Jersey Superior Court judge and author of 10 books on the Constitution. Good morning to you. Always good to have you on the program. So there's a lot of unknowns here, but I want to be clear about the potential indictment. So for a grand jury, the standard is more likely than not, rather than proof beyond a reasonable doubt, correct?
Yes. But for prosecutors, they know that they will need proof beyond a reasonable doubt in order to win at trial. So while they only have to give enough evidence to the grand jury so that it is more, they can to persuade a majority of them, there's 23, to believe that it is more likely than not, Marni, that the defendant did what the government says he did. They have to have in their possession enough evidence of proof beyond a reasonable doubt, because the last thing in the world they want, particularly in a high-profile case like this, is to indict and then not have enough evidence to go forward.
Right. So is it the hush money and whether or not it was paid, or is the possible crime the accounting of it, the paper trail? What will they be trying to determine?
So there's two crimes here. One is a misdemeanor. One is a felony. The felony elevates the misdemeanor up to a felony. The difference between the two is the length of jail time to which the defendant, if convicted, is exposed. So the failure to record in the Trump Organization books the payment to Stormy Daniels as the payment for silence, rather recording it as legal fees, is a simple misdemeanor. In my opinion, it's a bookkeeping mistake. However, if that was done in order to mask a felony, the felony would be using corporate funds, Trump Organization funds, for a campaign purpose. Remember, this happened 2 weeks before Election Day in October 2016. That is a felony. That's the felony to which Michael Cohen pleaded guilty and for which he went to jail, which was orchestrating the payment of Trump Organization corporate funds to pay a campaign debt. So this comes down to the following question. Was the payment to Stormy Daniels made to save Donald Trump's marriage or to save Donald Trump's presidential campaign? If it was made to save his marriage, it's just a misdemeanor, a bookkeeping mistake. If it was made to save the campaign, it's a felony. And if the government can show that Trump orchestrated it, and he is convicted of this, he'd be exposed, believe it or not, to jail time.
And is there any statute of limitations on this? I mean, years ago, how far back does it go, the paper trail, in trying to find that evidence?
Okay, so as you quite properly reported a few minutes ago, the alleged sexual liaison between Donald Trump and Stormy Daniels occurred in 2006. But that's not what starts the statute here. What starts the statute of limitations running is when Michael Cohen made the payments, the circuitous route from the Trump Organization to himself after he had loaned the money to make the payment. That occurred in October of 16. The statute of limitations is 7 years, so they have another 6 months before we hit October of 23, at which point it would be too late to prosecute.
So the biggest critic of all of this is Donald Trump himself, calling it a witch hunt. You heard Republican governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, in the last 24 hours say this is a manufactured circus. He can still run for president, even if he is indicted, however this plays out. So the question for the DA is, what's the end game here? Is it politically motivated?
You know, the DA is under a lot of political pressure. He's a progressive. He's a liberal progressive. So, and his voting base is New York City, just Manhattan, not even the more suburban parts of New York City. He knows that his base wants him to indict Donald Trump. But Marni, that is not a basis for indicting anybody because your political basis wants it. He can only indict where, it takes us back to where we started, where he can persuade a grand jury it's more likely than not that the defendant committed the crime, and where he has enough evidence to persuade a trial jury beyond a reasonable doubt and to a moral certainty. When he first became DA 2 years ago, he looked at this case and threw it out. And then the political pressure on him caused him to change his mind, hire a whole new team of investigators, look at the whole case all over again. And now it appears that he wants to go forward with it. This is a popularly elected DA who obviously has his eye on the ball of re-election. That's not right. I come from a system where the judges and the DAs were appointed. In judges' cases, it was an appointment for life. You never had your eye on the ball of what the public thinks or your finger to the wind. But it is clear that this progressive DA in New York City does have his finger to the wind. And right now, those winds are blowing against Donald Trump.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.